Hello everyone and good morning. Happy Sunday. Happy July. I hope everyone, all of my fellow Americans celebrated their independence last night and enjoyed the fireworks shows that were going off literally everywhere. And just had a really good time. We spent some time out at the farm with our family. Those of us that have been, going back and forth and being a part of that out there, we're together on 4th of July, which is really nice, and we're able to shoot off a lot of fireworks and things like that and bring together a lovely farm fresh meal that was just perfect and enjoyable. What did you think, Joe?
That fireworks display rivaled anything that we could have gone to go see.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
especially when you have a 19-year-old, my son, there to kind of, be the pyro that I used to be.
And playing with Jack and
I was
showing
so
Jack.
proud,
And
so proud.
Yeah, it was lots of fun. And so I hope you all had an amazing day and really took the opportunity to recognize that the freedom that we all have here and that we have, that our past countrymen, our brave soldiers, all men and women have done to give us this opportunity to have the types of freedoms that we enjoy in America. All right, that being said, my freedom comes from my ability to grow my own food and create beautiful, nice sanctuaries to participate in and enjoy and love every day. And I'm actually here not only doing that for myself and for my family, but also working to share that with as many of you as I possibly can. So every Sunday morning, please get on this live if you're able to. And it's 10:30 a.m. and I will answer your questions here. If you have questions, if you've been holding on to a question that you need an experienced gardener to help out with, then I'm here to help by answering those questions on this live on Sunday mornings. Now, some other things to know about. Because it's July and because here in South Texas in the Zone 9 region, Zone 9B is where I'm specifically located at, we are beginning to get ready for our 2021, hold on, that didn't come out right. Our 2021 gardens, which actually start in September, truly. So what are we doing to get ready for that? Now, I'm going to be putting on workshops monthly as it goes forward. So I have a July workshop coming up. It is an opportunity on Saturday, July 11th at 10 a.m. It's seasonal gardening specific to July, and what are we doing in July to prepare for our fall planting in September. All right, there's also an option for Thursday at 6:30 p.m. on July the 16th. There are two options within those. There are a few spaces available for folks that can actually come physically and are feeling well enough and okay to do some social distancing interaction in a garden space and an outdoor space. So a few seats available for in-person, but otherwise you can do these workshops online. I'm going to set up an online live situation where interaction and question answers can be done. That will likely be done with Zoom, but if I am able to find a different way to do it, then I may do it that way. But what'll happen is once you've purchased your ticket, you will receive an email, and that email will give you either the directions to the garden, what is the address so that you can come here and be a part of it if that's the choice you have chosen, or it will give you a link directly to the private online event that you will have access to. If you aren't able to tune in live that day, I will download that video, record it, and make sure it's available to anyone that purchases a ticket for the future to use for future events. It will be focused on seasonal in July. Gotcha.
A lot of times people that might watch this video see your beautiful garden and think, oh my God, she's so far ahead of me. It sounds like what you're saying on this workshop is, here's the work to do between today and when you need to begin planting in September, and I guess you'll set them up for all of that.
Absolutely. And what I'm doing each week is not only journaling for myself so that I know what my garden looks like in early July, but also giving you the ability to tap back and go backwards and find information out to where it is best in your planting season. Even if you're not in Zone 9, you'll see, okay, here's some types of things that can be done, but I need to shift them to match my planting season. And so that's something to keep in mind. Okay. So it is July. We are planting. There's a couple of things I wanted to tell you about. I've had a few folks asking me some questions about what am I planting? When am I planting? What's the timeline for that? So let's just talk about July at the beginning of the month. I am beginning to plant more tomato transplants. So taking my seeds, planting them in the small pots. I'm using a potting mix, a simple potting mix. I throw in a little bit of peat moss. That's what I use to plant seeds in. I usually take one of those little square pots. I plant about 6 starts, and then after a few weeks, once they've germinated and they've got on their true leaves, then I can pop those out and put them into a bigger, maybe a 6-pack or something like that. My goal is to get them ready to go into the ground in late September so that I can then produce more tomatoes into the winter time, especially if we don't deal with a freeze around here. So tomatoes, I'm doing the same thing with eggplants. I'm also doing peppers. And you can also start some winter squash this same way. Something to keep in mind about July, especially in our region in a zone 9 area, and especially as the temperatures have shifted, and many of us know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of the shift in temperature and also the shift in rain. We've gone now a week without any rain, so I've begun watering again. These are all things to keep in mind, that your soil temperatures are higher. I don't actually have a thermometer for my soil. However, I think that it's a good thing to have, and I probably will get one so that I can begin to understand what temperature germinates my seeds the best, and at what point can I begin actually putting the seeds into the ground rather than into pots. Some of the seeds that can go into the ground, some of the things that can go into the ground right now are lima beans. That's something, know that if you're going to plant lima beans, you have to have some sort of a trellis because they are big time trellising beans. And then of course you can still do some sweet potatoes in the ground as well. Now, what am I ordering? Because in July I'm doing massive ordering of seeds. As a matter of fact, happily on Independence Day, I received my box of Johnny's seeds. I can't tell you what's more independent than having a box of seeds that come to you and you knowing that these are open pollinated seeds that you will then be able to use next season on your own without having to purchase them again. That's the type of independence I want, right? From Johnny's I'm also ordering Southern Seed Exchange. I'm ordering Baker Creek Heirloom. And in the July workshop, I will talk more specifically about exactly what types of things I'm planting, what types of things I'm ordering, what types of seeds I'm ordering, because I want to make sure that I have all the plants I need, not just for the fall, but also, again, already rolling into the winter time before I can pick up the 21 seeds, because a lot of the gardening companies that sell seeds aren't going to be having their 2021 seeds available yet. So I need to make sure that I prepare ahead of time for anything that I might want to plant in late January when other folks, or in late December or in January when other folks aren't planting in the ground yet and more north of us. Okay, I love at the beginning of the month to do a garden tour so that I can show you what the garden looks like in July. If you've been watching, you've seen the way that this garden has developed. One thing is that Hunter came home just recently, had to do a little quarantine thing because he traveled in from Florida, but no big deal. When he finally got to come out and had shown negative on a test, he came out to the garden, looked around and went, wow, it has grown so much. And then I pointed over to the other garden and I said, oh, you got to go look at that garden. So one thing to know, especially if you've have had plenty of rain, which we have, and you've been paying attention and watering, is that the summer heat grows a jungle, right? So let's look around. Coming over here this way, if you look back at this area, it is truly way overgrown. I can't even hardly get back in there anymore. I've got the datura down here on the bottom. That's that beautiful moonflower. Just the other day, my moonflower plant had 9 flowers. Not this one, but a different one. I'll show you in just a minute. It had 9 moonflowers that came open all on the same day. That was kind of amazing. And yes.
Can I tell you why I like this plant so much?
Yes.
You are the gardener. I am your helper.
Yeah.
And I don't know all the ins and outs of it. But I can tell you that when these put on flowers that are opened by moonlight instead of sunlight, what a fun, we can enjoy this thing for 24 hours, 24 hours a day. So we come out with a little, iced tea or something else and watch those beautiful flowers open up.
Yep. I literally saw those 9 spring. I mean, they spring. And then there was a bee who was kind of hanging out around, waiting to get the too. And then it was in there going, sorry, I just want to do that one more time.
God, you were watching much more closely than I was.
One thing I want to make sure I note about that datura plant is that it is a nightshade and it is poisonous. So this is not one of the plants that you feed to your chickens. This is one of the ones that you pull out and you put in an area of your garden. If you're needing to cut any plants or seeds or anything like that, you're making sure that you're adding that into an area where your animals aren't going to be. So beautiful Turk's cap. I took some of these pretty flowers right off of it just the other day. This is all edible. This entire plant is edible. I took those pretty flowers and added it to a fresh fruit salad with all the local fresh fruit that we have available right now. It is fruit harvesting season. There is tons of fruit available. We have figs. I will have figs available on Tuesday. If you're looking for figs, let me know. Reach out to me and I will make sure to talk that out with you and see if we can trade or do. I do about $2.50 a pound on those. So if you're interested in those, I'm going to have those available. All right, so I do have this tomatillos. If you've got more information about tomatillos than I have, then I don't seem to be having much luck with the tomatillos. I have no idea what that's about. In the past, I always thought that it had to do with the fact that I didn't have enough of them, and so they weren't cross-pollinating or they weren't pollinating each other. I've got tomatillos all over the garden. They haven't done anything. So I have a lot more to learn about how to get tomatillos to actually produce well. I'll tell you, one year out at the Learning Garden, a tomatillo plant just grew like crazy with tons and tons of tomatillos on it, and I felt like it was an accident because now I can't seem to get it to happen again. So don't forget about the moringa. That's a really important plant. I am doing some propagating of this, and I also have some seeds. So if you're looking for this type of tree, it grows really fast. It grows well in our region. And one of the things that I've also been doing in the house is that I've been making tea every day, cold tea. I make it with some calming chamomile, lavender, herb type of stuff. I just use a nice English breakfast black tea, and then I also put some moringa in it every time. In addition to that, when I break fast at 4 p.m., I intermittent fast, so when I break fast at 4 p.m., I've been making myself a nice summer smoothie and putting some moringa powder in it as well. If you need moringa, let me know. I can get that for you additionally. Of course, right now it's really important to have all the pretty milkweed. We have lots of nice milkweed available. This is actually a tropical milkweed. And as the season changes and we get into the winter time and we're done with the monarch pollination and all of that type of stuff, I'm going to cut these plants out completely. That's really important because if not, they can carry a parasite, which the next season when the monarchs come back again, they catch a parasite. And so we want to make sure that once we've had these, once the monarchs have passed through and we're getting into wintertime, that we cut these things out completely and start over again from scratch.
Parasite, heck of a movie, but you don't want it in your garden.
I don't. That's a great movie. That's the movie that won the Oscar this year, and it is fantastic. You can hear about that on Dinner Table Talks or Beer and a Movie. Either podcast available.
We're everywhere.
Right. So I want to show you this habanero plant that I've been looking at each week. It's starting to really turn red. I'm about to have a ridiculous amount of habaneros again. See them red there. And then all of these guys here. Here's another red one right here. This one actually needs to be taken off right now. Boop. And one of the things about keeping your garden well watered with peppers, habanero pepper is a 10 Scoville of spice of heat. That's pretty hot. So one of the things that you can do to tamper that just a little bit, so you still want a hot pepper, but you don't want it so fiery hot you can't do anything with it. One of the things to do about that is to make sure that your peppers stay really watered. Now, the flip side of that is that if you water your jalapenos really well and they're a mild jalapeno, there won't be any spice to your jalapenos at all. So you kind of have to decide. I don't use jalapenos as a spice. Serranos, yes, tend to be a spicy hot pepper that I'm trying to use, but this is my favorite hot pepper. I'm very, very happy with the habaneros. So the other thing that I've been doing a lot of is replanting marigolds, taking all of my starts that I had already started and then popping off the deadheads. That's what this little thing is right here. Or here's a good one. I can actually pop this one off. Well, this plant's still wet. Nah, I'm gonna leave it. But once it's dry, you need to make sure that it's dry, and then you should be able to easily pop those off. And then once you do that, just open it up and stick it around. I go along in my pots, make sure I have a couple of marigold seeds in each pot. Make sure I fill in. You can see there's one right here. So I'm just kind of filling in the spaces, making sure I have plenty of habaneros everywhere. Plenty of marigolds everywhere. Marigolds are extremely important for pest management. They're a great companion plant. They're really helpful for the problem nematodes too. So that's an important thing. to keep in mind and to have available in your garden. I have a nice little young eggplant here. Now, one of the things I've noticed is that my eggplants almost always deal with the spider mite, but it doesn't affect their fruiting. It just makes their leaves not as pretty. So that's something to keep in mind. As I'm learning, I figure out a way to solve that problem. And as my microclimate gets better over here, that helps to solve that problem as well. So I've begun to reach out a little bit further into this area. I've put these pots as kind of a barrier to keep us from weed eating over them and all of that kind of stuff. This is a elderberry, American elderberry. It grows really, really well in our region, and I'm looking forward to getting it planted in the ground, probably at the farm, and then we'll have elderberries in the future. This is a goji berry. It's the first time I've ever grown anything like that. The plant looks okay. It's still alive. It's not super thriving. This is blackberry. Blackberry grows really well in our region. I'm going to start growing more and more of that blackberry. That one is an Apache, I believe, Apache variety. So in addition to that, I've also got some older pepper plants here that don't seem to be producing anything right now, but when they did produce, that was an Anaheim pepper. And then over here, this is an actual sunflower. It's a red torch sunflower, or a Mexican sunflower. It puts on a red flower. There's 3 plants there. Those will do really good. I've got a cantaloupe that's doing really well back there on the bottom. And here's some okra plants, some nice, these are just generally so pretty. I have had more okra than I've even known what to do with from the farm. So I'm not in need of a lot of okra, but it's a really pretty plant and it's covering the space, and that's important in a little kitchen garden. Or another term I've learned recently, which I'm super excited about, is a potager garden. This is a potager garden. So it's the flowers, the fruits, the vegetables, and it's right outside your kitchen door.
The cachet of your garden just went up 2 or 3 degrees.
I know.
Of what kind of garden?
It's a potager. Potager garden. Of course, you know the Green Harmony or longevity spinach. This is a green that you can have all year long when your kale and your other types of green aren't doing well. It can be used to cook in a green spinach type of situation. It can be used in your salads, anything like that. It's a really, really good, helpful summer green available for you when you don't have the other types of greens. My lavender is still doing really, really well. I'm very happy. That's what this is right here. I'm very happy with that. It's still putting on flowers. As a matter of fact, I purchased some lavender seeds from Baker Creek Heirloom, and I'm going to try to grow more lavender out of the farm this year because that's really helpful for drawing in the bees and making the grapevines a little bit healthier and a little bit better pollinated. Let's see, what do I have over here that you can get to? If you're trying to still pickle and do some pickling things, my dill is actually coming back up again. That's been very helpful to have that dill. Dill doesn't love the summer heat, but if you can get a little bit of dill to grow this time of year, it's really good because you're pickling and you're making pickled okra, plenty of pickled okra, and you're still pickling your cucumbers and things like that. That's something to keep in mind as well. Now coming back over here in this area, now I've got some peppers going over here, some very pretty happy pepper plants. I haven't seemed to be putting on very many peppers, but I think finally I'm starting to get some peppers growing here. This is going to be that chocolate bell pepper, which ends up being a pretty kind of purple or brown bell pepper. Very nice. It doesn't taste like chocolate, but it has pretty colors. So down here in this little spot, I have a Suriname cherry. This is a cherry, a foraging cherry bush. It's actually been there a long time. I'm hoping that it'll really finally take off at some point, help to take over this garden bed and let this garden bed be about the Suriname cherry. All right, let's go back over here for a minute. Let me move this chair out of the way. Okay, over here in my little forest area that I've created, I've got okra growing up here in the back. You can see that is what this is. Lots of pretty zinnias, and the zinnias, so that zinnia back there is a tie-dyed. It's white and it's got kind of like some red streaks in it. It was very similar to the one that I had over here, which was yellow and red streaks. Very, very pretty zinnia. I love zinnia. I've been doing a lot of flower cutting for my house, so taking little things, a couple of sunflowers off, taking off a little bit of marjoram, and maybe one pretty little zinnia, and putting it in a little compartment containment, maybe putting it in my bathroom or putting it in my kitchen. It's just adding a little bit of freshness to that space and encouraging me to keep it clean and happy, especially while we're all dealing with the summertime, with the quarantine and having to be at home. You want your home to be as nice as possible for all the people that are in it and for the people that are dealing with it daily and not having anywhere else to go. So, of course, as you've got the time, you're making sure that you're keeping all of your spaces nice and clean. But in addition to that, adding those fresh flowers from your garden, from your potager garden, is very lovely and nice thing to do.
It has been a nice touch. I find these little pops of flowers all over the house.
Yep, they're very nice. I love it, and it surprises me, and I'm always like, yay, flowers. I love this little Peter pepper. It has done really well. It's a hot pepper as well. Look how long and big that is. Okay, look at this one. Now this plant is really starting to get happy, and it's putting on big happy peppers. The Cuban oregano is really easy to regrow. Lots of great ground cover going on there. That's an important plant to have, just to help with some of the ground cover. Let's see. I have had almost no luck with squash, especially, come over here because I want to show you this. Thank you. I've been having finally this yellow squash that I think might actually be doing well, but then all of my little yellow squash kept falling off. So I followed the advice of several people, got a little paintbrush out, and I come out each morning. This is a male flower and this is a female flower. So I take my paintbrush, I stick it in there and wiggle it around, and then I stick it in there and wiggle it around, and hopefully because of that, this year I'm gonna have 1, 2, finally maybe 3 at some point. We'll see. You'll see next week how that's going and whether it's working or not at all. So I also have a cantaloupe that's doing really well, and as it gets closer and further up this, it's vining up this thing. I love this. This is that permaculture style where you have layers of growing and different things growing in different ways around each other to protect each other. As you'll notice, there's even more sun over here than there was the last time you watched, and I'll see more sun throughout the day. And the reason is because we finally got some trees trimmed. We worked on a pecan tree and really getting it trimmed. If you look over there in my little chicken run area, that will be a garden eventually, but currently it's a place where the chickens can dive in and find good stuff and work on those seeds and break things down and help me to break that material down in there as well. So let's walk back up this direction. Look how beautiful this zinnia is. I'm very proud of it. It matches me. All right, so you'll see also in here the chickens have the same situation over here as well. Let me open this up. Let's see them not running out as well. And so we created, so with some of the logs we've used to give them the little perches they can stand on, and then of course there's lots of places for them to get in and dig around. We're also creating the mulch here that will help to break down, so that makes more litter on the floor of their bed as well, or on the floor of their run as well. In addition to that, as that stuff breaks down, I use it to build my next hugelkultur bed. I will be doing a workshop on hugelkultur building once I get ready to build that next hugelkultur bed. I will make sure to do a video and have that available for a workshop for those of you that are interested in learning how to build a hugelkultur bed. Some other things that I have going on over here, I've been trimming off of this marjoram pretty regularly and adding it to my pretty flowers. And making sure I have that. I love this sage. This round leaf sage is really pretty to add to the decor of your garden, your little fresh cut flowers as well. But it's also a pretty great companion plant in your garden because it helps to deter other types of bugs and things that you don't want in there. Okay, so here's another one. Most of the pepper, not most, all of the peppers that are growing in this particular bed are sweet or bell peppers so that they don't get cross-pollinated with those habaneros over there. I hope that it's far enough away. It may not be, but that's okay. I haven't noticed these to be any super spicy. I've taken a few off of this one already. This is a sunbell, an orange sunbell. So if it can get to the point of maturing without getting too soft, then I can actually have it turn to color. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and take them a little bit early for that as well. 2 tomato plants that are still in pots back there in the back. I think they're gonna do really well for my fall tomato crop. They look perfect. Those plants are in really good shape. See how it's coming up over here? It's coming out and it's fresh and it's happy. Those plants are doing really well right there. I'm very happy with those tomatoes and where they're located at, and I expect to have a lot of good stuff. And then I've got some sort of a maybe trellising system that I can work with by attaching it to the fencing there as well. So let's walk over to the other garden. Now, as far as the chickens are concerned, we have joined the flocks. And if you want to hear a little bit more about that, we've got some information about that we're going to be talking about in tomorrow's launch of the podcast, dinnertabletalks.com. If you haven't checked that out, you're going to be episode 44. Woof, we've almost made it around a whole year. And I think we talk about that a little bit as well in the podcast. But if you want to know a little bit more about how we've combined the flock, we do talk about that in tomorrow's launch of the podcast.
It's really a focus on how you use this garden to make our dinner table a better place.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. So here then we just kind of cleaned up around this area over here. I've been trying to leave this cantaloupe plant alone so that it doesn't get disturbed too much. It is starting to put on fruit. So I expect that this plant will actually produce me some cantaloupes. Yay, that's going to be so fantastic. More tomatillos, of course the beautiful zinnias that I have. Once I get them to the top like this, then I may go ahead and pop it out for my cuttings like I mentioned, but most importantly I'm going to want those seeds so that I can reseed that one the next time on my own. Okay, I like this little area. It's a good happy area. It grows well. Things grow well right here. This is where I had that tomato plant that grew out of this tiny little pot right here. You can see this is the original tomato plant right here. It finally got cut back. It produced 50 pounds of tomatoes. It was really good. And so I've done something to kind of create this kind of system here. Now you can see I have another tomato plant back here on the back. I'm hopeful that that one will really take off and get happy as well. And then of course you've got some basil here to be protective of it, a pepper that's putting on a pretty little pepper down there. I've got lots of good peppers right now. I have the Mexican mint marigold hanging over from this pretty little pot with some basil. Now the pepper plant here didn't make it, but that's okay because there's lots of other good stuff going on in this pot. And now I've got my Thai basil, which is a perennial basil. It does really well in our climate all year long. It doesn't freeze back. So that plant is probably a 2-year-old plant there, and it'll reseed itself as well. Here's some more tomatoes that I have going in this nice little space. Some of that holy basil. I really love this stuff. It smells so sweet. It's just fragrant and beautiful, and I love it. And then down here, and I have some over in the other garden that actually look healthier than this one. This is a little Thai pepper plant. I'm pretty happy about that little pretty, and they put the tiny little peppers on just like that. I should have showed you it over there. That one was really much healthier. So back over here, some more holy basil. I mentioned the marigold earlier, you know about that. Now this is a little ground cherry, which most of my ground cherries are growing big and happy over in the other garden, but I'm really in love with these types of plants as well. They put on a little husked cherry that is kind of similar to a tomatillo, but you can only eat them when they actually fall off the vine. So you kind of just have to keep an eye out for when you see them on the ground and pick them up. So, okay, this garden, look back this way. You've been watching this and you know that this garden has not had any of this type of growth. Now all of a sudden it has sprung up, taken off, covered up where we can't see that ugly piece of machinery back there in the back that nobody wants to look at.
A gas meter?
I know what it is, I'm just saying. And it's just hiding out that little space back there, which is what we had really hoped for. I've got some okra. Look how much sun. I've talked and talked and talked about how little sun there was available in this garden, how hard it was to get the sun I needed for this garden. But now we've trimmed up this Chinese tallow tree, and I actually took some cuttings from it, so I'm hoping that maybe I can propagate some more and we can plant some more Chinese tallow out at the farm. But most importantly, we got it trimmed up. Like I said, threw all those trimmings into the chickens with the chicken coop, and now I've got some more sun back here, and it's going to be really helpful. I'm excited about what this garden is going to do in the fall because it's really, really looking fantastic right now. I have been watering daily in this garden and just making sure it gets a nice strength to really help it be the most successful. You see here I've got peppers and marigolds and snapdragons. I've got tomatoes. I've got some more marigolds. That's a replanted marigold that's not doing great, but I think it'll be okay. Basil, tons of basil. All of these are black-eyed peas, lots and lots of black-eyed peas. I've been kind of waiting to harvest those, but that'll be coming up soon, maybe even today. Some of my different sunflowers are still growing in here, but most of my sunflowers now have been cut down and are out, and I'll take any of my sunflowers out that don't have something growing up them right now. I'm kind of past the point of that, but taking each one of those little pretty little yellow flowers inside, putting them in a nice pot for us to share and enjoy. Cucumbers. It hasn't been a great success, but it's been an okay success. Somehow or another, I got a field cucumber in here, which doesn't quite make any sense to me because it was very specifically located in this area. So where I had planted cucumber seeds. So I'm wondering which seed company sold me field cucumbers, or how did I end up with this field cucumber in here? But they're not horrible. I mean, the thing is that if you're gonna eat a field cucumber, you need to eat it when it's nice and yellow. See, like this one's not even ripe enough yet. When it's all yellow, and then you cut the peelings off and you eat the seeds on the inside, throw them in smoothies, that kind of thing. But otherwise, that's pretty much just a ground cover. Otherwise, like at the Learning Garden, when we had those growing, we'd let them grow to cover ground, but we didn't harvest much from them.
So is that a waste of time? In other words, not getting the cucumbers that you had intended on getting, is that a big waste of your time? Or
no, because the most important thing about this garden this year and this season was to get stuff growing on top of newly planted beds. So anything that's growing is perfectly fine. I didn't have a ton of success with cucumbers this year. I mean, I had put some cucumbers on here, but it was mostly too shaded most of the year. I did finally start getting some cucumbers off of it, but at this late season, a lot of these cucumbers, even if they don't look bitter, they probably are bitter. So make sure that if you're gonna use any of the late season cucumbers, that you peel them, and then if you can, cut out any of the seeds and then put it into like a smoothie or make a soup out of it or something like that, because they're just not as tasty in this heat. When it gets into the 90s, cucumbers are just not as tasty anymore, and that's a thing. So, okay, I've begun, because we've got more sun, I've begun planting more things along this fence line over here. And it does look better. So like my roselle right here, this plant's been in here, but all of a sudden it's doing really, really well. I cannot wait until one of my roselle plants grows into a big bush so that I can really show it off to you guys.
Before you go on too much further, Andrew has a question, and you may have answered it, but maybe a little more clarification.
Sure. Andrew.
What's a good rule when to pick cucumbers generally?
Cucumbers are better in the cooler part of the spring. And they can grow all the way into, May or June, especially like this year. May wasn't hot and June was barely hot, right? So we had cucumbers all the way through June. But once the temperatures get above 80 consistently, like our nights have been 81 and our mornings have been 81, which means our middays are in the 90s, right? So that's when we start to get to that point, they're not as good. One thing you can do to mitigate that is create some types of shade. That means that my cucumbers won't get as sunburned if they're in some types of shade. And then additionally, find varieties that can handle the summer heat, that don't turn bitter. So I did order some seeds from Baker's Creek Heirloom and Seed Savers Exchange to do a few more cucumbers to see if I can get some fall cucumbers. And I was looking specifically for a short day, which means they don't grow too long. But in addition to that, to ones that say these won't turn bitter. But even still, in our summer heat, cucumbers are just likely to turn bitter, and that's just a part of it. So you can also pickle them. Sometimes the pickling will help with that potential problem of bitterness. So I'm again excited about this roselle. Can't wait to show you that off. That is the edible hibiscus, basically. So if you drink hibiscus tea or hibiscus jelly or anything like that, it's actually coming from the roselle plant. This is a Thai roselle. I love the Thai varieties because Thailand and a lot of Australia, there's certain areas in the world that are matching our region in terms of subtropical zone 9B type of growing, and so it's fun to look at other growers in other parts of the world to see how they're doing things and to learn from them. So I pay attention to the Thai roselle in Australia and in Thailand and how they talk about that particular plant. One thing I think every farmer should consider growing commodity roselle, and then we as Texans, or our Texan leadership, needs to figure out a way to help create systems of distribution and commodity growth of roselle, because it is a production plant. It is related to hibiscus, Turk's cap, cotton, all things okra, all things we grow really, really well here. So it is an important commodity that should be grown in South Texas. All right, I think I've given you about as much garden tour as I can give off today. So please be sure to tune in next Sunday at 10:30 a.m. And in addition to that, don't forget about the workshops. Don't forget about the workshops that are on, let's see, Saturday at 10 a.m., July 11th. That's next Saturday. And then not this Thursday, but the next Thursday after that at 6:30 p.m. And I will talk even more in depth about what are we doing in July, how do we solve those July problems. And don't forget the podcast launch is number 44. That's dinnertabletalks.com. Reach out to me if you need any help with your garden, if you need a little bit of garden coaching, if you need a friendly hand there to help out. I'm available, and check in with me every Sunday live and ask away at all the questions. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'll see you soon.